Hey guys, and welcome to the Kurima podcast, where we talk about business, finance, entrepreneurship, and real estate. I'm your host, Jason Kurima, and I have a very special guest today, Trevor Clune. So Trevor is an active real estate investor. He does a lot of flips, and then he has a few rentals as well. And I'm just, you're killing it, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, like, that's one of the weird things is like now I'm thankful that I have people that work for me that can work on remodel stuff, but like I'm glad that I have the experience of working on remodel stuff, because at first when I jumped into it, I didn't know anything like at all. And so now, like, being able to identify if things are done correctly, that seems to mitigate a lot. So yeah. I am thankful for that. So
do you work with contractors at all, or just have your own crew?
We've done a little bit of both. So we started, last year I had people working directly for me, and they were like, one was like a friend and one was like my business partner's family. I'll go with that. And it didn't work out because like you have people work for you that and like have personal relationships with, and then like I don't want to say that they took advantage of it, but more or less they did. And it just didn't work out for like they would not show up to work on certain days, and it's like they would tell you why, and then you're like, oh, cool, I'm thinking on the friend basis and not on the business basis. And then after that, while we were working on one project, our biggest project that we've done to date, we bought another house, and it was owner finance, and we hired someone else out that was recommended to us, and they were a contractor, and they did a terrible job. So we had to like reframe some of the joists and stuff below the house. Like the guy had window units, and he just let the water run down the walls, so like it ripped out, like destroyed sill plates and stuff like that. Stuff that you couldn't tell like off the bat. And like so we didn't do an inspection on that, but it didn't have there wasn't even crawl space access like to where they could get under and look at it. But like once we got into it and we had the floor ripped up, like we're like, oh cool, there's a lot more damage here. So we were paying a guy to fix it more or less, and he was jacking up and leveling the house and everything. Well, we bought all the supplies, and then like basically we were going to pay him labor for it, and come to find out, he and this was one of the weird things. It only worked out because of my business partner working at the casino. I guess that guy was not paying his guys, and so one of them came and found Caleb at work and was like, "Hey, like this guy has been paying us, and we know you've been paying him." So I told him that if he didn't pay us by this date, we were going to come tell you what happened. And he's like, well, what are you talking about? And so I come to find out he was actually returning the materials that we were buying, and he was collecting the money and taking that to different casinos and gambling. And so like there would be like a 3-day stretch where like we'd call him and he wouldn't answer his phone. And it's like, dude, like what's the deal right now? And then we found out his repair stuff was even worse. What he was doing is he was taking like scrap 2x4s and stuff like that, and he was just screwing them in different places. Like, I don't know, you probably saw it at some point. I had a picture on my social media where there was like, we had ripped up the subfloor like about where a bathroom was in the little hallway area, and you could see that there was probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 2x4s scabbed in there, and like of course it needs to be at least like 2x8s like for the span that they were running. So it was a nightmare. And so that ended up being a costly experience. So that was my only time working with like an actual contractor. And then I like the way we're doing it now is we are using a mixture of our own personal guys. They basically are doing like the rough stuff, and then they also have the ability to finish stuff. So we'll use them to do the demo and then prep. We'll bring subs in. They'll do like your electrical, your mechanicals, that kind of stuff. They'll do that. And then we bring our guys back, and then we'll have a drywall guy come in, do mud tape, texture, all that, and then we'll have our guys come back in and finish it. Yeah, because they can do countertops and all that, cabinets.
I feel like finish work is like one of the hardest skills that you can find. Like I feel like that's the hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you're set up pretty well there. Because if you don't have a good finish crew, it's no matter how great everything else went, the project's gonna look like crap in the end.
And that's one thing where I'm glad about because like I can finish stuff. Like I actually enjoy that, but I don't have the time to do it. It doesn't pay well enough for me to do it, and that's really what the big thing is. Mm-hmm. And so like now I'm able to pull myself out of it, like, and we're building everything like with systems in place of how we can actually run everything. Like we're gonna have it where we have walkthrough checklists and stuff at the end. So like pretty much like now I can just walk in and make sure everything's done properly and like up to a certain level, and then like we can move on from it. Whereas before, like, if you're working on stuff, I mean, I don't know if you've worked on remodel stuff, but, like, if you're doing that as well as trying to balance life, like it's so easy to get burned out. And then by the time you like get towards the end of a project, you're like, I just want to be done with this. Like I don't even care. I just want it done. And then you do that, and then like the product you release is like, like sometimes, which I've noticed just a lot of flips. We went and like walked flips at some point just to kind of like quality check. Like I feel like a lot of people like just rush stuff.
Yeah.
Like there, you can tell there's a lot of product out there where it's like, hey, this looks good in pictures, and like I feel like that's how a lot
That's how most things are. And then if you go in person, you're like, holy crap, this does not look anything like the pictures.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. I mean, like I'm not going to say that we haven't had houses like that because I felt like that, but I'm also one of those people that like I'm very analytical the way that I think. So like, if there's something that I know that wasn't done, I will literally lay in bed thinking about the fact that it wasn't done. Like one of our biggest, like, it's just such a silly thing, but like finishing closets. Like we've had it where like the closets have been finished in the bedroom, but like if there's like a hallway closet or something, like the whole rest of the house be painted, and like it's like we didn't even think about it. We didn't paint the inside of the closet. Like just silly things like that, and like I'll just think about it. So, like that's one, like I said, that's one nice thing now where it's like since we have people working for us, like we can just walk in and be like, hey, we need to go through and take care of this. Yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to that process.
Yeah. So with your goal being 20 flips this year, or 24, sorry, do you have the manpower to do it, do you think? Or do you think you'll have to start hiring outside?
So there's going to be a couple of phases that we're going to go through where we're going to have some pain points. And like at first it's deal flow. And then like everybody thinks it's money, but like as far as purchasing, but I don't know why, but like finding money to purchase houses is like the easiest thing in the world. Now, finding money to operate everything in between is a little bit harder because it's like if something's tied to an asset, like there's so many people that have money out there that like want to invest because at the end of the day, like they can make more money they're going to make sitting in a money market account or a savings account or a CD or anything. But so what I think is going to happen is we had it planned out on how we were going to acquire stuff, but then we raised the goal. It's kind of changed the way that we were going to acquire stuff. So I think, sorry, I'm going away from your question. I'm going to come back to it. So I think that we are going to run into a point of where we're going to have an operating issue as far as income. We'll figure that out, and then we'll get to the point of where we'll have a deal flow issue. We'll figure that out, and then I think that we'll have so many deals at the same time that we're probably going to have to hire more staff to run those deals. So I think that I didn't really put it on my goal list, but just kind of thinking about how the process would work, I probably wouldn't be surprised if we got close to 10 employees by the end of the year.
Nice.
Like it seems like it would be the most feasible. And then like the guy that I have that can do finish work right now, like I would eventually like to move him up into a little bit more of a like hands-on leadership position where he can still do finish stuff, but then he's also like making sure the guys are doing their jobs and like just delegation, stuff like that. I think that like we'll definitely need like a middle management type of person there. So it's going to be a fun process. It's going to be a lot of like, because this is a completely different environment than what I've had to use so far. So, but it's also going to allow us to do a lot more at one time.
Yeah. And it's good that you're building that crew because if you have them, then it becomes so much easier than trying to get your contractor like, hey, I really need this done, and then them still not doing it. That's some of the stuff that I've ran into.
Do you have a personal experience you want to talk about with that?
Yeah, there's just, I don't know. So me and a partner, when we started out, we would hire everything ourselves. Like we would hire all the subs and stuff, and we wouldn't really use any contractors. And then when we split, I didn't know I felt like I didn't have the skill set necessarily to hire all that stuff out, or I didn't want the headache. So I was like, well, I'll just find a contractor. So I found one of the best contractors around, and he started doing my stuff for me. And then I went on to like getting to where I was buying a lot. So then I needed to hire another one eventually. And so now we have 2 contractors, and between the 2 of them, I think they could probably knock out between 14 and 16 flips a year for us. So we'd need one more to bring on to be able to hit that 20 goal if we do pursue hitting 20 this year.
So they're able to do 6 to 8 a year per themselves?
So one of them can do probably around 4. The other one has 3 different crews, so he could probably hit the like 12 or whatever.
So how do you...
Or I guess 10.
My question would be then is... are you sure that you would have enough business that he would want to dedicate solely to working only for you type of thing?
So I don't know. We talked about a bunch of different scenarios, and he also has other houses that, like the one that has the 3 crews has other houses that he's working on right now. But I don't know. He thinks he could probably do it, and based on what I've seen and how fast his crews work, he probably could hit that. Because I was pretty impressed with how quickly. Like, I have one house. I thought it would take like 3 months to flip. We have it under contract for it to be done in 6 weeks total, and he has another 2 weeks left, a little less than 2 weeks left, maybe a week and a half left, and it'll be close. It might go over a week, but he'll be really close. And then we also changed our contracts to where for every day they're late, it's $100 off the price.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
yeah. I haven't done it, like, except for the one contractor experience, like, I haven't really had others. But my thing is it's like there's so many, like, moving parts in that they get to deal with. Like, you're paying a premium to use them. Yeah. So, like, but in the net market, like, I've seen, like, the profit you make on your flips, like, that's way more than what we're making on our flips in our area. So at the same time, like, I guess if you can afford to pay the whole crew to do that, like, that'd be worth it.
Yeah.
Especially if he could do, if he could do 12 a year, like, essentially, I mean, I know it's running 3 crews, but it's essentially turning a house a month off of one guy. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm. So the only problem we've ran into is, like, those guys are quick, but then quality control is harder. And then, like, it's not necessarily my contractor's fault, but because he's got so many moving parts. But it's like, man, like, this should have been done a lot nicer, which some of it's been on my rentals. So that's most of it's been on the rentals. So it's not as big of a deal. Mm-hmm. But I feel like now I'm having to step in a lot more and be like, hey, this is really bad that this was done like this. This needs fixed. And he'll take care of it for me. But it's the fact that I had to step in to even say, like, hey, this needs to be done this way.
You don't want to micromanage it?
Yeah. Like, I want to be as passive as I possibly can. And that's why I like dealing with contractors, because it's a lot more passive than having to. I mean, it's still active, but a lot more passive than having subs, in my opinion. So, because, like, I can, with my contractors, usually I can go once a week or once every 2 to 3 weeks and check on it and see how things are going, rather than a lot of time. I don't know how often you go to your properties.
That's why I was actually late today. I had to go walk a property just to make sure everything was set up for the way that we needed, and we were on track for the rest of the week. Yeah. So I was doing that in Joplin, then I had to go home and get ready to come up here. So that was actually why I was late, because I was walking one of our properties to make sure everything was going right. Yeah. But I think that, like...
So, like how often do you go to your properties? Is it, like, a couple times a week?
Well, it's a little different environment than what I'm used to, because since we're doing it different now. But I would say it's once or twice a week, but more or less it's kind of like figuring out, like, the nuances. Like, a lot of times they can just ask me a question, because me and Caleb were talking about that last night. Like, the way we want to do it is basically, like, I'll go in, I'll build the scope, I'll make, like, the plan out and everything. We're going to do, like, full in-depth walkthrough videos of what we want specifically. Mm-hmm. That way we can give that to our guys, and then I'm going to give that over to Caleb, and then Caleb will deal with them directly. And then if he has questions, or if they have questions, they can ask Caleb, then Caleb can ask me. That way it'll actually be very hands-off for me. Yeah. And since Caleb, he really only goes to properties once or twice a week, like, but he's usually not checking on stuff. Like, he's, like, writing checks or meeting contractors or something like that. So, like, I mean, for him it's relatively passive, but it's getting that way for me. Mm-hmm. So, like, right now, like, my focus is more or less, like, I have a list of stuff that I do to do right now. I actually started doing, like, a 90-day, like, business focus. I don't know if you saw, like, Caleb's post about that.
I'm not.
He was
talking about, like, just going all in on your business for, like, 90 straight days.
90, yeah. Well, because, like, I mean, it's almost like 75 hard. Like, I mean, realistically, like, people, it's funny because people act like 75 hard is the hardest thing in the world. And, like, I don't think that it is, but what it actually teaches you, because it's really just a mental thing. Like, what it actually teaches you, it's like how to use power list to move yourself forward. Mm-hmm. So, like, here it is. You have this list of things that you have to take care of. Mm-hmm. And, like, this is, in order to succeed today, you just have to take care of this list. So, more or less, that's what I'm doing in my business right now. Yeah. And then, like, I did a couple things to take, like, before I wasn't spending a direct specific amount of time working on my business every day. Yeah. It was, to be honest, like, it was kind of, like, sporadic. It was like I would mess with stuff when I needed to, but then, like, it would be like when it came to finances and stuff, like, I knew that everything was taken care of, but I wasn't, like, writing out all my budgets and stuff, like, concurrently while it's going on. Mm-hmm. And so, like, that's one thing that I'm working on right now. So I'm trying to, like, go through and basically balance out every single thing that I've kind of, like, just put on the back burner. That way, like, the business is doing exactly what it needs to do, and then after that it's, like, going to just be focusing on growing the business and building the brand and stuff like that, stuff that I've put off. So Yeah.
It's frustrating when you have a lot of different things that you need to do. Like I have a million things that I need to do, and then only, a percentage of those actually gets worked on. But I know ultimately for me to grow and be where I want to be, I'm going to have to start addressing some of those things. It's just those things that I just have no desire to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's the same thing. It's almost like a honey to-do list, but it's a to-do list for life that you need to take care of. But those things that you put off, like the sad part is like most of the time they're like so minute they don't really matter. Like they don't in the grand scheme they don't really affect much. But then what they do is they add stress.
Yeah.
Like because then you're thinking about them, you're not fully present. Like and then later they still have to be taken care of. So then you like put it off, and then you got like this compounding effect of all these things. And then it's like, oh, cool, the world's crashing down around me. And it's like, no, like you were just putting off all the things you need to do in the first place.
That's exactly how I feel.
So like that's why like whenever we were in Colorado this past week, like one of the days, like one of the things I want to do was get Reonomy, but I'd put it off for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I went ahead and got that all set up. I went and bought a domain for our business because like one of the things for setting up Reonomy is you have to have like your own email domain. Like,
oh, really?
You can't use Gmail or Outlook or anything like that. Like I was just using a business domain, like basically through Outlook. So I had like the business name at outlook.com. So it still looks sort of professional, but they won't let you do that.
That's
so I'm
stupid.
like, yeah. So I'm like, the list is silly. I got to figure this out. So I went and bought the domain for our business after we changed the business name. I bought it for 5 years, and then I bought like a year of like email access, so we have private emails. Mm-hmm. But just like these little steps of like all these little things I had to do to check off the box to get the one thing done that I wanted. So while I was there, I just made a list. I was like, all right, like what are everything that you've put off in your business that you've wanted to do or you've had a thought about that you need to take care of. And then I just made a list. And then so like literally I'm just going to hammer down on that list. And then once we get everything implemented with that, I'm literally just going to focus on growing everything. So I'm excited for it. I even went as far as like instead of having to worry about what I'm going to eat, like I've literally like, all right, for 90 days, you're going to eat macro bowls for lunch and dinner. Like you can have snacks, whatever you want outside of that. Cause like, I'm not trying to cut weight or anything like that, but like, I don't want the thought power of having to figure out what I want to eat. So
one less thing to have to worry about.
Yeah. So like we'll order our groceries on Saturday or Sunday or whatever. And my wife has those delivered half the time. So like, I'll just put the stuff I need for my macro bowls in there, and it like, they're pretty easy to set up. So they take almost no time to make. And, and I'll also get good like physical results for it too. That was the thing is it was like, what can I do to optimize the most amount of time? And have you ate any of those? Have you tried the macro bowls?
So I haven't. So we actually just hired the lady that babysits for us to start doing that for us. So she'll cook. She'll go to Walmart and get all the stuff, and then she'll make it all. And then like we're big on organic, so most of it'll be organic ingredients. So it's so nice to be able to just grab it and go.
And that's what I was saying earlier. Like if it came down to like long-term goals of life, like that would be the only like food thing I would think I would want access to, would be like someone just to make stuff like that, just to optimize like things for the week. But then it's like if we were having a date night or something, like of course like I'd like to cook dinner, but yeah, it's kind of my thought process on it.
For me, like the things I want to hire really bad this year is someone to do our laundry, which that girl already agreed to do it, but I'm just cheap right now and I don't want to spend the money to have her do our laundry. But the laundry, like over keeping the house clean, the laundry is like my thing that I hate to do because I'm the one that I feel like the majority of the time I'm the one that ends up having to do it. So that's the thing I want to eliminate, probably the worst. Another thing is I want someone to start detailing our cars because I've never had our car detailed and like professionally, and that would be so nice not have to worry about it and just like every 3 weeks or every month go and just have it done and the car just stay nice and clean. Like that'd be nice. And then I mean, as far as like since we hired her to start meal prepping for us, I'm kind of the same way. Like it'd be nice to have a chef do it like every, maybe once a month, like have a really nice meal made just for us. That would be cool. But I don't think that's necessarily such a goal. But if I could get those done this year, and then we're looking to hire someone to do our books and then help us with property management. And I actually have an interview tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. And so we don't need it. Like it'll just be like a part-time thing, just a few hours here and there per week. But that'll take a huge load off of me and Haley. And then for the event center and stuff too, she can probably take care of that. So that's where I feel like a lot of our time is right now is like between, like you saw that big stack of all the
paperwork
receipts.
Yeah.
And so if we can get some of those things off of our plates, because like a lot of times we feel like we're stuck with the kids because like we have a babysitter that comes like 3 times a week, and then Kaya has daycare. But outside of that, like, I mean, we always, if the babysitter's not there, then we have Kalesi with us all the time. And so if we're not like at the office by ourselves, me and Haley, then I feel like nothing really gets done. And so that's like a big pain stress point for us. So if we can figure out how to allocate that and delegate, some of the stuff, I think life will get easier. But also we have kind of our dream set up, because how many people can say that they could spend that much time with their kids? Like,
oh yeah, there's not.
So that's nice. And a lot of stuff, like, I can't complain at all. Like, I have literally, like, I wanted this, like, I feel like I created my life by design for the most part. But there's just little things I want to tweak to make it exactly how I want.
To optimize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like, at your age, you're pretty successful. Because, I mean, like, I wasn't even thinking about entrepreneur stuff yet. I mean, I was pretty close, because around your age is about the time that I started doing network marketing. But that was probably what actually got me into, like, the trickle effect. That's how I ended up, like, getting into real estate anyways.
So what were you selling?
What was it? Zervita. It was like a wellness drink, basically. Give you, like, energy. Like, it was kind of a silly thing. So, like, there's a whole story behind that. So, like, I had just started, like, taking care of my life. Like, I had, like, fixed my credit, like, because I didn't come from a background of, like, having family that had good credit or anything. Like, I've never had anybody sign for anything for me. So I was just trial and error. I had to figure it out, get credit cards, like, figure that out as I went. So I did that, got to a point where I could buy a house, used a VA loan for that. And then right after I closed up my house, my mentor comes to me and he was like, oh, hey, like, you want to check this out and whatnot? So, like, we talked about it or whatever, and I was like, I don't know if I'm really interested in it. He did. Then he was the one who got me in personal development and leadership and all that stuff. So,
So was your mentor also selling it?
yes,
Okay.
that was how I ended up getting into it. And then, so we started doing that, and like I said, social stuff was already, like, kind of a weak point for me, and I especially wasn't good at, like, going and putting on, like, little sales presentations about, like, a product that was, like, it worked okay. Like, I mean, it gave you energy, it made you feel good type of thing, but, like, I wasn't bought all in on it.
Mm-hmm.
But leading into that led me to like, I think that one thing that is underutilized with network marketing that people don't realize is it's really just like it's like a sales program with personal development attached to it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And so, like, it, like, leads you down this rabbit hole of personal development stuff, and then it ended up with of course, the cliche rich dad poor dad, and then that got me into like, reading that was like, okay, well, why don't you just do houses and stuff, like, because the main goal with network marketing was, like, passive income. Like, it's like you want to, like, they're going to pay for your car, they're going to pay your bills, blah, 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 blah. You're going to build a team. You're going to have this leadership experience. And, like, oh, wow, this sounds amazing. Then you're like, all right, well, this is a cool, but it's a very active passive income stream. So I had, like, I wouldn't say a little success, but I mean, like, mine was paid for and I made a couple $100s a month. Like, so it sort of was passive. And then got Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that started leading down the other things. And that same mentor was actually one of the ones that I bought the house with. And then we just, like, I stayed in it, and then like, we did personal development stuff, and then it kind of just spiraled into other things from there. Yeah. But I mean, like, network marketing was how I really, truly, honestly got started in everything. Not that I would probably be okay at it now, but I definitely didn't have the skills to do it whenever I was doing it then.
Yeah. So that's actually how my old business partner got into everything too. There's a huge company, like, it's the one that's been around the longest. I can't think of what it's called.
Probably like Avon or something like that. Or there's one other one too.
They sell, like, every type of product, like pills and, like.
There's 2 or 3, like, really, really big. Was it Mary Kay?
No.
Is it the one that it's, like, green?
It's been around for, like, forever. It's, like, the longest one.
Is it Herbalife?
No.
That's another big one, though.
Yeah, that is a big one. Anyways, he got into that stuff, and then they talk about personal development and getting him all the books and stuff and setting your mind up to be kind of entrepreneurial and stuff. And that's really what propelled him to, like, wanting to do, a lot. Cause like he didn't, I feel like he didn't really know exactly, he didn't have a whole lot of direction on what he wanted to do with his life, but then he got into that, and then he kind of got into real estate, and then now he's doing pretty well as a contractor. And so, but I feel like that really fueled his trajectory.
Yeah,
So,
it made him escape the regular 9 to 5 life.
yeah.
That was mine too. And then I mean, I'm grateful for my casino experience, like the leadership and stuff I got, and the camaraderie, the friends and stuff I made. Like, it was all fantastic. It's just, like I said, you work in a really negative environment. Like, the money was really good. I mean, and when I started working at the casino, I was making $9 an hour as a security guard, and then within, I don't know, I'd probably say 3.5 years, I went from there. I went to a tech. After a tech, I went to attendant for a short period, and then I was one of the first, once all the leadership changed, I was one of the first supervisors hired up into slots, and then then I worked my way up into the shift that I wanted, and so during that period, I went from making $9 an hour to, when I first became a supervisor, I think I made in the low 60s that first year, and then since we still built systems and stuff on top of that, and then relationships with people, and so when I left, I was making six figures,
Nice.
and we were making I mean, I was working on average 36 hours a week.
Wow.
They would not let us have overtime for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So phone call. I was working for 36 hours a week, making good money, but the drawback is the people that were on first shift, which have been the better shift to have, so you could work your normal daytime hours. They had been there for forever. They weren't gonna leave. I'd pretty much cornered myself in a spot that I was in. It was hey, cool, you're making this money, but you have to work nights and weekends. And the only work, it could get worse. You could work overnights, but that, I mean, that wasn't really a thing. And then it was I at some point I was I got to find an exit from this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of dabbled in the real estate thing, and I had the house going, and I was remodeling it on the side in my spare time. And like I said, there was a huge miserable period during that, but I learned a ton from it. And I learned about that was the big value in that, not even on the real estate side, was probably the partnership experience, because now if I do partnerships with people, I want to make sure that I go into the partnership understanding what everybody wants out of the partnership. And before that, I mean, those guys are my buddies, but we had no idea. We just thought that we all wanted to buy houses and make money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
but
that.
That's not.
Yeah.
You gotta have something very specific.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And like I said, one of them was hey, I would like to use other people's money to make money. And it's that's awesome. I mean, that's essentially what I'm doing now. But that wasn't what I went into it for. Mine was
Mm-hmm.
I just want to do this, and I want to figure it out, and I'll do whatever it takes to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one was I want to invest money, and then I don't want to have to spend a lot of time messing with it.
Yeah.
And that's actually what worked out perfect, is that's one of my private money lenders. That relationship was built based upon that. And then I did several houses after that. And he was oh, I see what you're doing. Would you be interested in me investing money in you? And then you just pay me some of it. So and I mean, to date, I don't even know how much money's it's crazy, but I'm I can basically send a text message and say, hey, this is the deal that we're putting together. This is what it would pay. This is how long we're planning on it taking. Would you be interested in this? And I'm you're my first call. So I always give him priority. Mm-hmm. And pretty much every single time he's yeah. He's so what date do I need to get you a check?
Yeah. So what kind of terms do you try to get with him?
So I do a little bit different than everybody else, but usually, since most of my stuff is fix and flip now, I'll just do 6-month terms.
Wow.
It depends if it's gonna be a longer rehab. If it's a rehab that I think is gonna take 3 or more months, then I'm gonna write a longer one on there. But what I'll do is essentially I'm paying 15% interest, but I've structured a little bit differently. So what I'll do is, and some people will be I can't believe you're doing that, but I will structure 10% pretty much guaranteed as their loan fee. Mm-hmm. So it's hey, if we get out of this house in 45 days, you're going to get 10% plus, and then I'll give them another 5% monthly based upon that.
Oh, wow.
So but if they do 2 deals a year and it's on that same investment, you just made 30% return on your money on your original investment. That's a crazy compounding effect.
Yeah.
So for them, it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Their money's still tied up to an asset. So
mm-hmm.
They're pretty safe.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're still basically paying 15%.
Mm-hmm.
So I just offer it to people like that, and pretty much anyone that I've had the conversation with that's been interested has been yeah, I would do that all day long.
So does that mean you sell most of your deals within 6 months after buying them?
Yes, except for one, and it was our big rehab. And it actually, what I didn't like about it is it's probably my favorite rehab I've ever done. We changed the floor plan completely, and it was it had really cool finishes and stuff like that, and it was just we timed the market really bad though. It was right around the rate hikes, so we could comp it all day to make sense on the numbers, but at the end of the day, it's really only worth what it sells for. You can look up whatever you want all day long. So We originally listed it a lot higher than what we ended up selling it for, but it ended up taking way longer than what to lead out to that. We ended up because what was it? It took like 9 months basically, because that was one of the ones where I had people working for me and then they stopped working and then like they would work again, and then so I ended up pretty much finishing most of it myself, and then I had to go back and fix certain things, and it and like what killed us on that house also was because it took so long was the holding costs on it. So like we had the private money tied up in it, which that one we didn't actually have a ton of private money tied up in. We had some of our own capital, which is not usually something that I do anyways. And then but I mean our carrying costs were probably $2,000 a month. I think our interest only payments were like $1,100 or $1,200 a month, and then on top of that, because it was extensive rehab. I mean, like I said, we changed the floor plan completely. We ripped out the kitchen. We completely changed where the bathrooms were set up. Like it had 2 bathrooms that were like right next to each other in a weird hallway, and we got rid of the hallway and then made a master suite out of the bathroom. Like it ended up being a really cool house, but it was just it took way longer than it was supposed to. But like now, like the good thing is stuff like that, I really dial in like the kind of houses I want to do now. Like that house that we would have closed on a day would have been a 2 to 3 week rehab. And so like going back to the conversation we had earlier, you're probably like, I would have done that all day long. But I mean, like it's just learning. Like it's like you gotta like basically figure out the battles that you want to fight and the stuff that you don't. And like maybe I should have just went ahead and been like, hey, yeah, let's close on this. But, like,
you never know. You might get a call today.
Oh yeah, well, and so like my thing is I have an abundant mindset, and I didn't used to have that, and that's a good thing about like the personal development side of things. Is it's like I would say that majority of people have a scarcity mindset, and you're like, oh, well, this is a good deal, like you should jump on this, and I was like, yeah, it is a good deal, but you know, like there's tons of deals out there, like there's tons of deals out there, there's tons of money out there, there's tons of people to network with out there, like there's always more coming. So like at the end of the day, like if it was like if I didn't want to pay for someone else's negligence, like just to trade off for money, like it was like, okay, cool, I stuck to my values, like, but I know there's more deals out there. I can still go out and find another deal if I need to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Like I said, I still kind of teeter the fence about it earlier because I'm like, man, like maybe you should have, but at the same time, like that's kind of the standard I want to set going forward.
Yeah.
So fast forward a little bit, we move around a few different times. I jump around to a bunch of different schools, end up in Webb City. And then we were living out in Oronogo, like graduate high school. I got a job at a call center. I quit there. Went and my best friends at the time, they're like, oh, hey, let's join the Army. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And they're like, all right, well, at least come talk to a recruiter with us. Let's go talk to a recruiter. And he's like, oh, you guys got to take a test and we'll see what kind of job you can have. And this whole story ends up being funny, but like we go take this test. I like scored the highest out of the entire test group. Like there was literally the number 1 score, and it was only like an 80 something, but they also have like the ASVAB is like rated differently. So you have like your regular score, and you also have line scores that tell you like your different like kinds of jobs and stuff that you can have. Scored high on all of those. They're basically like, yeah, you can have any job you want. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, let's figure something out. And then, because I didn't want to join, but they're like, oh, we're all going to go to boot camp together. We're going to join the Army, like all this. One of them didn't score high enough to get in. The other one scored like just right around enough to get in. But then they're like, all right, well, these 2 need a retest. Well, then one of them does, one of them doesn't. Moral or less of the story, like moral of the story is they didn't end up joining the Army, and I did. And I was the one who didn't want to join. So that led me into becoming a helicopter electrician. Did that for a while, and then I was just National Guard for that. Then that was my first leadership experience, though. So like I joined the Army when I was 19, and I made sergeant by the time I was 21. Like, so I mean, like almost every single thing that I've done in life, like
leadership.
And everything that I've done, I've excelled at. Like, and that's not to be like arrogant or anything. Like I've had some periods in my life where I've been kind of arrogant, but like overall, anything that I've ever done that I've stuck to, I've eventually gotten good at. And like even the helicopter electrician, I graduated distinguished honor graduate from the Army Aviation Logistics School. Like, I mean, like top of the class there too. Like, and like a lot of that was like, it was kind of effortless. Like when it comes to book work and knowledge and numbers and stuff like that is pretty much effortless. But come back, end up working for my current business partner's dad at the time. He owned a liquor store. He was successful and stuff. That didn't work out. we ended up both going to the casino, and then that translated into everything else. So after that, we kind of just like we both moved up over time. Like we both started off as guards, both became techs around the same time. I became attendant. He went to be a tech at the other casino, and he eventually, I want to say he might have moved up to an attendant at one time, and then he ended up moving to MOD, and then like I just pretty much moved straight up the ladder. But then it was to the point where it was like you can move up and work more hours but make less money, and I'm like, that's not for me. And then that was when the network marketing thing happened, and then that kind of like transitioned everything into real estate. And then after that, it's just kind of been like one foot in front of the other to get to this point.
Mm. So what do you feel was like one of the best lessons you've learned in life?
Honestly, it's like it's pretty simple. Like it's just figure out what you want to do, and then take whatever the smallest action needed is to move that forward, and then take the next action, and then take the next action, and then like over time, as long as you take those individual little tiny easy steps, whatever they are, like eventually you get to where you want to be at. But like at the end of the day, like if you're not taking those little steps, you'll never get there. So I would say that's probably the biggest life lesson, because almost anything I've ever put off that I haven't taken action on has been like a big stress point. And then like once I do, I'm like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then it's just like you just keep doing that, and that's how you get good at anything. Like you just do it over and over and over again until you have this like Alex Hormozy likes to say, like undeniable stack of proof or of evidence, like to say that you got there. So like that's probably my biggest life lesson. It's just following action, following through.
And that's, I feel like, what builds confidence. Because once you have the confidence to do stuff, then it becomes a lot easier. At least easier, maybe not easy, but I think that helps.
And I think like this will sound like kind of silly, but I feel like most things in life are actually pretty easy. It's just like we build these things up in our heads as being these like crazy impossible tasks. Like, I mean, like a great example right now, and it's pretty much the only reason I haven't like even like dove into it yet, is like multifamily and like commercial stuff. Like I'm literally doing the exact same thing on the house side, like creative stuff. Like I'm great at that. Like I'm literally buying houses all the time without using any of my own money. Like I've done seller finance deals. Like I already know how to negotiate all of that. It's literally the same skill set, but it's like I have like this imposter syndrome in my head that says these tasks are impossible. Like you're not ready for this. You don't deserve this. But like I know that's not true. But like that's what I tell myself.
I have the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like it's crazy. And then so like, but you just get out there and then you do it, and then like you're like, oh, it wasn't so bad. And you do it again. And you're like, yeah, that was okay. And then you do it again. You're like, yeah, it was easy. And it was like, but you were doing the same thing every time. Like you weren't even. It was just mentally how you approached it was differently. But at the end of the day, like it was still the same thing.
Yeah. So this year there's a guy that's willing to potentially sell like 56 units, but then he's like, I might as well just sell my whole portfolio if I'm going to sell these. And he has just under 100 units, he said. So that is probably, a several $1 million deal. And in my head, I'm kind of like, I'm anxious about it, but I'm like, man, this is exactly what I've been wanting to do for a long time. So if this works out, like for one, I think it'll be a God thing, but like it's also like very challenging to be able to, like, it's the same numbers, like numbers don't lie, right? So it's the same thing that like kind of like what you said, you're doing the same stuff right now, but it's just got to be on a bigger scale with bigger numbers. That's all that changes, but same thing. So I don't know. I'm really hoping we can tackle that deal, but
is he willing to do any owner financing for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
he's concerned about his tax bill. So that works perfect for me, because if I can do some type of owner carry with him and it makes his tax bill go down, then that's perfect. So, and it's local, it's Monette. So
that's cool. Yeah. I think that there's probably like an easy way to structure that for you. That's a win-win.
Yeah.
And like that. Yeah. No, that's fantastic.
But it's all about like, I haven't like, and even Caleb had talked about how the easier part is buying the deal. Like after you buy it, then the work actually starts. So like, then you got to take over the property and manage it and all the other headache, which, it's not even that bad. So if I can just, figure out a way to buy it, then.
Isn't that the sad part too? Is it's like in our mindset that it's not the operating the deal that's the hard part. It's the buying the deal. And like, that's the easy part. Like that, but like
it's like backwards.
Yeah, but like you're like, oh yeah, operating this would be super easy. Like this is exactly what I'm gonna do, and then you just go in and do it. And then it's like, but the rest of it, you're like, you put up on this like crazy pedestal. And even though like if you look at it and you wrote it down on paper, it's the easiest part. It's crazy.
Yeah. But like you said, we all get up in our heads and doubt like our abilities to do it. And that's why there's tons of people that reach out to me and say, hey, I always wanted to flip a house. You know, how do I get started? But a lot of these people that are messaging me about it, they won't take action to do it. Now, some of them are, and they're excelling, but there's a lot of people that just always want to do something, but they never take the steps or take the risk and believe in themselves enough to go after it.
Yeah, and if they do, they want you to hold their hand the entire time, and it's like, this isn't worth. But yeah, I get that. But I feel like that's like a giant world problem. Is it's like everybody wants to do something, but nobody wants to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And so like, I have this thing, and I try not to do it, but like I've got to the point where if I hear people complaining to me, like if it's like even if it's a friend, like if they're coming to me all the time, constantly complaining, I'm like, hey, like if you want actual help or actual advice, like I'll give you like non-biased advice all day as long as you take action on it. But if you're gonna like come to me and complain about the same thing over and over again, and you do nothing about it, like it's not worth either one of our times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause I get that like some people need to vent and whatnot, but like I don't. I mean, I have my own stuff going on too, and like I don't want to hear it. Like I'm not trying to be like a jerk about it or whatnot.
I
but
get
like, it's just I just wish that if anybody like would just like figure out whatever their current problem is, and then figure out what they need to do about it, and then just do what they need to do about it. Like the world would be such a drastically different place.
Yeah.
And it's so simple. Like realistically, like at the end of the day, it is always that simple.
Mm. It's not as hard as everyone makes it seem to be.
No, and especially when you like most things can be, even when you're tackling big things, like not just like drama and like problems and stuff like that, but like big things like multifamily deals and stuff like that. It can be broke down in so many small steps.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, hey, I got to make this phone call today, and then like, but then when it comes time to make that phone call, you're like, oh, I really don't make this phone call, and then you're like, oh, I'll do it after I do this. I'll do it after I do this. Then you never make it. That's what I mean. Like that's what I do, and I would assume that's what other people do too.
Mm-hmm.
But
once you make it, it's like you're on the phone already, and it's not even a big deal at all. You're just getting the information you need, and you just check it off your list. Like, why did I make that such a big deal? And you know, there's other situations. Like, I always struggle with relationship issues. Like, not me and my wife, but like relationships with like business. Like, if we go a different direction and stuff like that, because I had to do something that like with that this week. And it's really difficult. Like I hate it because I really feel bad for the person that is affected. But at the same time, I have to run my business and make those decisions for myself because I'm really in charge of my own business, right? So, you know, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. Like I'm sure in 5 years from now, managing people will be extremely easy for me. Whereas right now it just feels really difficult. So
yeah, but once you get experience and like I don't want to say time under tension, but basically it is time under tension. Like once you get that and like you do the reps, like it gets way easier. Mm-hmm. And like one of the things like right now is like I learned like especially whenever it came to dealing with like team members and stuff is like not to be emotional. Mm-hmm. So like right now I'm trying to set myself up to where like if something is bothering me, I want someone else in between the middle of that. So like I don't have to make a biased decision based upon like my emotion in that moment. Like I want to always be in a position where I can walk away and think about what I'm going to do or say and then come back calm-headed and then speak to the person where I'm not in the point of like, this is terrible, everything's on fire. Like, because like when you do that, it just, it destroys a relationship. It destroys your credibility. So like that'll probably be the thing that, like if I had a guess of anything that you'll probably have a struggle with, it'd probably be that because I think that most people do that. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's the difference between like you'll notice with like good leaders that you work for and like bad leaders that you work for is like people that can come to you like calm and collective and like speak to you like a human being. Mm-hmm. Like those people get so much further than the people who are like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. My boss said you're doing this wrong. Like it kills morale. Like there's so many negative things to it. So, but I think you'll be great at it. You seem like you're like pretty like level-headed. So
yeah. It's just, you know, my problem is I overanalyze it. Like, instead of just making the call and saying, you know, this, I'll just procrastinate. Days will go by. And then I'll debate in my head over and over, am I making the right decision? And then I'll write a pros and cons list. And the pros and cons list is very effective most of the time. But then I won't even listen to the data all the time. I'll procrastinate. So, like, I feel like, you know, they say like successful people procrastinate on the right thing. So like they'll put off. And so overall, I feel like I'm collectively successful, but not in an arrogant way. But then there's certain parts of me that's like just a normal human where, I procrastinate just like everyone else on the things I should do. So I don't know.
See, and that's why, like, if I have something that, if there's something that is like I have an emotional tie up or it's making me procrastinate, I usually try to just knock those things out without having any kind of like thinking bias to it. That's why, like, we were talking about this before. Like, I just want to like, as long as I know the information that I'm going to be presenting, which chances are I do, like, I just want to get in and wing it and then figure it out, because I know if I put it off, I will probably do way worse because I'm going to feel way more nervous. And then by the time I get to it, like, I'm going to perform worse anyways. So I might as well go ahead and do it now and knock it out. Go ahead and like build the credibility, like build the confidence, and just do that over and over again.
I think you're right on that. Another thing I'm going to try not to procrastinate on. I'm just going to try to start working on that. But so that leads me to the next question. What does believe in yourself mean to you? So like for me, it's about Josh Manning had a really good answer. He talked about how it ties into confidence, because if you believe in yourself, it really goes back to how you are confident in your abilities and everything. So for me, like, I feel like through high school and stuff, I really struggled hard with confidence and feeling less than, stuff like that. So now I try to overcompensate with, like, not arrogance, but trying to be more confident. And that's kind of how I tied it into like everything I'm doing.
So mine's kind of a weird story with that. So like whenever I was a kid, like I did a little bit of everything. Like I played sports and all that. But then when we started moving around schools a bunch, like my 6th grade year, I went to 4 different schools, and I started at 5th school my 7th grade year.
Wow.
Yeah, like, because I mean, like I went to, let's see, North Middle School, then I went to Galena, then I went to South Middle School, and then I ended up moving down to Texas with my dad. Well, that's like right around the time or the like age change where you can decide which parent you want to live with, or like go before a court and say. So my parent, or my mother at the time, sorry if you see this, she was like, oh, well, I don't want you to decide. So she literally went and picked me up from school like right before the school year ended. Like my dad didn't even know. Like she brought state troopers down there. She picked me up like right after school and we left. Like probably a traumatizing experience. Well, then the next year I started in Webb City, and I went to Webb City from 7th through 12th grade. But before that, I mean, like I had changed my environment so many times. Like it was like I didn't want to present myself to people, so I was kind of like less than confident at that point. Like I mean, like there was even like a little bit of like bullying episode stuff, but like not really a big deal. Like I get along with the person now, but I mean, because it was just like I didn't stand up for myself. Like I was friends with a little bit of everybody, but like wasn't a popular kid or anything after that. Then outside, after I got out of school, I started like being in the real world. I was still a teenager. Like I started getting a little bit of confidence. Like I found out that like girls actually thought that I was attractive, which changed things a little bit. So I was like, all right, cool. So then I went through this like slightly arrogant phase for a while. And then what turned it all upside down though was when I got into personal development. It was like once I started doing that, I realized that like my confidence or arrogance more or less was like a fake sense of confidence. And so then like by getting into that and like focusing on growing that, I like destroyed my confidence completely. Like it's the weirdest thing, but like now if there's things that I've done several times, like I'm confident, like when it comes to like buying houses, stuff like that, it don't even like, it's super easy. Like I don't even worry about coming up with money anymore. Like I'll walk a deal, I'll figure out what I need to do, and then I'll make an offer on it. And like in the beginning, like that was the hardest thing in the world. And so like for the believe in yourself thing, like I think when you start something new, you don't believe in yourself. Like you can try to hype yourself up and everything, but like if you feel like you are confident, maybe you're confident in who you are as a person, but I think that like you kind of just have to believe in the fact that you can do it as long as you take the steps. And then like the confidence and the actual belief in yourself comes from proving that you did that. So like it's like for me, like believe in yourself would be like, hey, I just went and did the action steps to get the result that I wanted. And then so you do that over and over again, and it's like, hey, I actually do believe in myself now because I know that I can do it. So for me, I think that would be what I would say believe in yourself is.
Okay, that's really good. So is there something that makes you more successful than you used to be? Like, I don't know if it was just like the personal development stuff, or if you learned something that just really changed like your path on like, okay, this will take me a lot further.
Well, I would say it chalks down to kind of two things. Is like, for one, getting around people that are doing better than you. Because it's more or less like like I don't necessarily want to say I compete with those people, but they're inspirational. So it's like, hey, like this is possible. Like if you do these things, like you can do it. Like of course the circumstances you start from may be different. So like you may not be able to do it the way that they did it, but you could like if you could get to some of the points that they did, you could emulate their success, and then you could build on that. And then I would say the other one is like deciding what you want and taking action on that as soon as you can. So
That's really good. I really like the emulating thing because I feel like consciously or whatever, unconsciously, I feel like I try to do that a lot. And so, I don't know, I feel like it's helped me through the years to become a lot better.
yeah, no, definitely. When you can see somebody that like is setting the example for the person that you want to be, or they have the things that you want to have, and then you like, okay, what did it take? And then you just literally go, and then you could even break it down into like character traits and stuff, and figure out the type of person they are, and then like if you could just emulate those, like you can get the result.
Yeah.
So.
Let's talk about some of your goals. I know before you had mentioned one of your really cool goals that I think would be awesome is you want to drive a Formula One car, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So for me, like I'm a big car guy, so like I wanted to set a goal this year that was like an experience goal, and that was why I'd put that on there because I'm like normally like it's like you do end result goals. So I try to do like I didn't read this anywhere. I don't even know where I got this from, but I try to do it where I basically set like action goals about things that like just steps that I need to take over and over to get the end result. I set end result goals of based upon if I take these actions, I'll get these goals.
Yep.
And then I also set like experience goals of like things that like not necessarily bucket list items, but things that I would just like to personally do in life.
Yep.
So
I feel like a lot of bucket list items just never get done. It's like a pipe dream, but like I feel like the goals are really the things that you end up achieving.
yeah.
So like what do you have you looked into it a whole lot?
Into what?
The Formula One stuff?
There was some point last year because so we went to Vegas for the first time last year. We actually went twice, and once for our anniversary and once because just some friends invited us. And like Vegas was never something that I wanted to do, but it's actually kind of the funny part is it's like a playground for adults. Like there's so many things you can do. Like you could go to Vegas and there's no way that you could experience even half of Vegas in a trip if you were there for 2 weeks. Like you'd be like going crazy if you did. So, but they have all kinds of stuff, and you can drive like exotic cars and like. You can. What I had actually looked into at the time was I wanted to drive a trophy truck. I just think that'd be so cool. Like the. Do you know what those are? Like the like big suspension like race trucks out in the desert. Yeah. And I'm like, so I looked into that, and then I was like, oh, I wonder if they have Formula One cars. And I'm like, these because like it would be terrifying. Like I love cars, and like I love like I mean driving fast, like going on track, stuff like that. Like that's awesome, but like. I would be so terrified to drive an F1 car just because of the capabilities that it has.
Yeah,
so
it's insane.
I was like, all right, well, let's figure this out. So I did look a little bit into it. What I found is like you have to there probably is somewhere in the United States, but what I found was like going to Europe, and it was like I think it was like $13,000 for like just so many laps, which someone else was like, you could I think like I was talking to them at the Platinum event. They were like, you could fly in a jet in the front seat from here to here for like half the cost of that. And I'm like, yeah, but that wasn't my goal. Like that's cool and all. Like, and I like at one point in my life, I wanted to be a pilot, but I don't think that I could do it now. And it's just like I'm like, I want to do it. So I'm just like, at some point, I don't know whether or not it'll be this year. If everything else translates the way that it wants to, or that I want it to, then sure. Yeah. But like, I'll have to have a lot more structure in my life in order to pull it off. But I mean, it'd be awesome. I would gladly pay $15,000 all day long to drive an F1 car for like 10 laps.
Yeah, I agree. I after you told me that, I was like, dang, I want to do that too.
Yeah, it's a crazy I feel like it's a crazy goal, but it's really not like it's not an impossible goal though.
Yeah,
it's like it's not like it's nothing that's up on a pedestal. But I mean, how many people do you know that have driven an F1 car?
Yeah,
none. Like
yeah, it's actually the Tony Stark movie. One of the I think
it's the second
one. Is it the second one?
That's the one where they're racing cars.
Yeah. That was what kind of got me into Formula One.
I think he's driving one in it actually. He's racing, and that's when the guy comes through with the whips. Yeah. No, and
then Elon Musk is actually in that movie too. Like right before that.
Oh really?
Yeah. Which is really cool. I didn't realize it until later, and I was like, holy crap! But I think I watched it this past year. I was like, I didn't even notice that was Elon Musk. So that's really cool.
That dude's impressive. Yeah. He's one of those people that like he just comes up with ideas and then he just finds the people and then just takes action on something immediately.
How many people would make say you accomplished a huge goal, which would be make $180 million selling a company, and then turn around and invest that into starting SpaceX and Tesla and all that. Like, how many people would take the risk to just, okay, I did this big thing, now I'm just going to take it and go all in and just sleep on other friends' couches and stuff since I'm broke again.
Was that after he sold PayPal then
Yeah.
they did that?
Yeah, which was called some other thing. It wasn't PayPal at the time, I don't think is what it was called, but it became PayPal.
Yeah, it had some transaction name before that. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But there was, I mean, you just have to you'd have to be someone that was obsessed with like following through on your passions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like that's something that I really, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this like 90 days of focusing on my business was like I don't feel like I'm sort of passionate about it. Like I'm excited for my goals, but I'm not obsessed with it. And I do kind of have like, I don't really want to say this out loud, but I kind of have an obsessive personality. Like when there's something that I want, like there's very few things I've ever had in life that like I've wanted and not gotten. Like I'd probably have to think for an hour to give you an example of something that I didn't get that I wanted. Yeah. And I'd probably would be less than like, I could probably do it on one hand. Mm-hmm. Like it's just the way that like my brain operates. So like, that's why I think doing this and then like diving into it, like becoming obsessed with it and like passionate about it, like I'm excited for that. Because if I get there, like it'll take that obsession takes away like the fear, because like you just care about getting to a point like and doing the thing, like the rest of it doesn't matter. So that's why I'm excited for that. But like we were talking about emulating people, and you're talking about Elon Musk. Like that's one thing that's like crazy about like Caleb is like when we were at the Platinum event and Scott was up at the front talking, and he was like, how many of you are like, I don't remember the words he used specifically, but he was like passionate and like in control of like the things that you're doing in life. And like I think like one or two, do you remember the question? Mm-hmm. It's something along those lines. That. Yeah. And there was only like one or two people that raised their hand, and Caleb was one of those people. And like of course no one else saw that, because like where I'm sitting I can see like he's in like my eyesight, but no one else like can see over there. And I'm like that dude, like he lives it. Like that's his passion, and that's what he's about it. Yeah. Like, and like when you talk to him about like his Monday system, he's like, it was to the point of where I was sleeping, and he's like, I'd be sleeping in bed and I'd have my laptop next to me. He's like, and I would wake it up and I would think about something and I'd roll over and make an adjustment. And I was like, your wife probably hates you right now. And he's like, she'd just roll over and say, can you turn the brightness down? And I'm like, most people do not operate with that level of passion. Like he could quit today if he wanted to. Like, I mean, he absolutely could. Like he's accomplished something that like, I bet if you were to do like a global population is like less than 1%, like crazy. Mm-hmm. And like he could absolutely quit and be successful the rest of his life and do nothing, but like he just continued to work his passion. Yeah. And like, so that's awesome. Like he's one of those people you'd want to emulate, because he's like that, like him, like Elon Musk. I mean, you got someone like Alex Hormozy, but it's like, it's crazy. I just hope that I can get to the point of like, just the obsession and passion that'd probably be enough for me. Mm-hmm. I think. Well,
I think you'll get there too. I really do. So like what are some of your other goals? Like, do you have a lot of like planned long-term goals, or do you usually just take it 1 year at a time?
So it's actually kind of funny to me anyways. Like usually you would think that I'm like I am a goal-oriented person, and like and most people think of me as a goal-oriented person. At least I would like to think that they do. But before I wrote down my goals this year, I had actually found my dry erase board that I had got for my office like well before I built my office, because it used to be my dining room, and so it was just sitting on a table once I started remodeling everything. Mm-hmm. And those goals were for 2021, and I was like, dude, you haven't set goals, you haven't wrote goals down in like over 2 years. Like that's wild. So like it's almost like you're just like aimlessly working towards something, but you're not like
specific about it.
So now I was like, all right, you got to do this. Like you got to write down, you got to set a target, like, and that's what you got to do. And so that was kind of just like what I did. But I haven't set really many long-term goals, just because I know that like really my thing is like the 24 flips, like it being 24 flips does not necessarily matter. The thing is like what I really wanted to do with the flips is I wanted to scale it up to a point of doing something that nobody else around here is doing. And like, so eventually the goal is to honestly go to 10 flips a month. Like people aren't doing it. Mm. Like people will tell you it's not possible, but like I can write it out on paper where it makes sense all day. As long as the structure is correct, like it's there. So my goal is to eventually build it up to that. Maybe more, but we'll have to branch out into several other areas if we do that. But like,
So like why though? Because I thought about that a lot. Like how much can we scale this thing? Like how many flips can we get to? And I used to think, oh, I want 50 flips a year, and then eventually 100 flips a year. And then I started reassessing. I'm like, well, yeah, like that's great for income and everything, but like for me, it's like if I can just buy so many apartments and have like eventually thousands of apartments, then because that means every year you have to work on building this system and everything and keep up with all these things and hire all these people and all these moving parts, which I guess is similar with apartments. But I feel like you set up an apartment and you're good for pretty much 20 years as long as you'll have maintenance and stuff. But with flips, it's like a whole project every single time over and over again. So like, what is it for you that makes you want to scale it like that?
but if you build, my question for you then is kind of a rebuttal. If you built the system right once, then it would sit there and take care of itself over and over and over again. And then all you do is put the right people in place to run that system. And so like, because of the way that I left my job, I am not technically bankable. Like me buying houses right now is like relationship based. Like I can't go to a bank and get a loan myself. Like I have good credit and like I have access to money, but like I don't have anything that shows that I make money on paper. Like at the end of the day, like so my goal is to get into multifamily assets. Like that is what the big, scary, ugly goal is. But like I have to build something that allows me to do that. And so there is the way that, which I am going to take this. This will be the thing that I do this year. But like, in order for me to buy multifamily, I have to bring on a partner that is 100% bankable. That like I could structure the deal where it's 100% creative and they don't bring the money to it, but I have to give up 50% equity in order to do that. And like, so I will probably do that just to make myself bankable. But the reason for the flips is mainly for one, like it's just to build a system for a cash cow that allows me to put into bigger assets. Like at the end of the day, that's the only reason for it.
And that's kind of how I'm using it too. That kind of fuels like the bigger down payments and all that. So
if you're raising money, you wouldn't even have to worry about that.
yeah, I know. So that created if I raise capital, that changes everything to where I don't have to worry about this stuff. But I still do like the higher income from the flips.
Yeah.
So like,
no, I mean it's
if
nice
you
to
have something
extra.
that's already working, I don't think you should get rid of it until you're at a point where it really doesn't matter. And especially how passive we have it set up for the most part. Like it's not really passive, but if you look at it, it's pretty comparable to a passive investment.
I mean, you're not having to work on it. Like you probably check on your.
I think like 10 hours a flip is around.
You spend less time on your flips than you do a rental.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, and that's considered a passive income stream. So at the end of the day, like your flips are more passive than what you're like looking at it from like a logistics standpoint.
Yeah.
But like I said, my thing is like for one, it's like I guess like I don't know if that's a confidence thing or if it's just because no one's ever done it. Because I think like in my head, like I know it's possible, and I could see it being completely possible. And then like you meet these other people that have done like there are people out there that have done crazy amounts of flips. I'm not talking about like gurus and stuff, like people that are actually like time proven, and it's like if they did that many flips, they had to have done like this amount that I want to do per year, like because there's no other way to maths
exactly.
out. So I'm like, I'm just gonna figure it out. I'm gonna build a system now that I'm actually into the position where I can like focus on the operation side of it. I'm excited because I think it's gonna be a lot more scalable. But the deal flow, I think at first is gonna be my like weak point. But I think once I like get past that, it'll be fine.
I think the limiting belief that I had, because as you kind of explained that, I started analyzing it myself. I think the weak point for me would be having to think that I need to go to each property to buy them. And if you have the right people that you can train to like, this is what you need to look for, then that takes you out completely. Like you set the criteria and, then it becomes.
So one of the things that's on my to-do list that I wrote down is I want to build, it's not an inspection checklist, but it's like there's a title for it, but I can't remember specifically what it is right now. But it's basically like when someone goes through and walks a property and wants to figure out how much to ask on it, we're going to even do it where it's on like a tablet so they can carry a tablet. But like if me, Caleb, or I can send a guy over there, they basically just check the box of whatever kind of like if it needs a roof, what kind of roof there is, how old it looks, like how big it is, like it'll have price points. But basically what it'll do is you'll go through, you'll fill it all out. At the end of it, it'll tell you what you need to offer and what your range needs to be. So you can make your first offer. And if you want to make multiple offers, you know what your maximum allowable offer is. So then at the end, you present that. And like, you know that I have to buy this property within this range. If it doesn't make these numbers, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. That would completely take care of it.
Yeah. And so
and that's where I probably spend most of my time with my flips is buying them. So if I could just build a system out to where I didn't have to go, then that would be awesome.
Yeah. And that, like, for me, like, that's the easiest part. Like, I can build a scope on a house in like 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, usually what I'll do now is like, I'll go walk a house, I'll take pictures and everything. I figure out like I'll look for like the big mechanicals and stuff. And then like, I'll just go back and I'll usually spend like, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes just writing out like a lot of the stuff we've been figuring out, like what the cost per square foot is for us to do. Like, I mean, I know if I have Micah do flooring, I'm looking at about $4 a square foot for SPC. So I know that any house I go into outside of subfloor fixes, like that price point's already there. If I want to put SPC in, like I got to pay my guys to rip the carpet up or the flooring up, it's there, and this is what's going back down. If I want paint done, it's about $2 a square foot. I think they charge like $1.50 to do for labor for trimming walls and maybe ceilings. Mm-hmm. And then outside of that, I got to pay for materials, which the last time they did a house for us, they sprayed and it was about 50 cents a square foot. So I know that like I can write my paint number at $2 a square foot and be safe and probably come in less. And if I have my guys do it, quite a bit less. Yeah. If I have my guys do flooring, quite a bit less as well. So like my thing is like what I've been trying to do now is like figure out one for our subs, like what they would charge for costs, like what whenever they go in and they're doing their own estimates, like what they're going to estimate it at. That way I can go in, make a quick estimate. I know what they're going to charge me, and then we just roll on from it. Yep. So it like as efficient as possible.
So that's kind of what we do is we just have so we meet with the contractor and then they give us the bid, and that's how we kind of figure out our numbers. Because I'm not the best at going in and being like, okay, this is going to cost this much, this much, this much. I just get a solid number, like $60,000 or $70,000 is pretty typical for one of our flips, and on the rehab side. So I just figure it that way, and then. Because people always ask me like, hey, I have this project going on. How much should this part cost me? And I feel like an idiot because I feel like I've been doing enough flips that I should know some of this stuff, but I really don't. I just, as long as my numbers are good, that's what I focus on.
Yeah, as long as your numbers make sense. Yeah. And doing it that way keeps it like passive. Mm-hmm. Like for me, like to be able to do it at scale, I do have to know those costs because like if I want to be able to shop it or whatnot, like I got to be able to know what they're actually charging me. Because, like, let's say that he's charging you 60, 70 grand, but, like, his all-in number with paying all of his guys and making his profits only 50. Like, you just paid an extra $20,000 for that. Yeah.
But I feel like I make up for it with my margin. Like, as long as I make my margin, then I'm happy.
Well, and, like, you're in the financial point, too, where you don't have to sell your flips right away or anything either. So, like when you're going to make $70,000 on a flip and it's just sitting and, like, it's going to sell in 3 months, like, hey, cool. Like, it's still, you're going to make $70,000. And when you only paid them like 60 or 70 to remodel it, like, that's all right.
Mm-hmm. But right now, my financial position isn't as fun because right now we really need to get our rentals and stabilized. So, like, it might look great, but my finances aren't exactly where I want them to be either. So, trying to get all that. But, I mean, you're right. Once I get them all sold, then I'll be fine.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I'm in a similar situation, but like, it's because at first we weren't, we were hiring everything out, but like our last house, for instance, we subbed everything out. We didn't have anybody like on staff or whatever. And then we ended up in a position where now we have people on staff, and it was like, cool, my expenses just went up a ton. So like, I'm more worried about paying them than I'm worried about paying myself. So like my bills went from being like my personal bills are not really a huge deal, but like, my business bills went from being a couple of grand a month of carrying costs to like 10 grand plus per month now. Cause I mean, like for run two guys, we're paying like, it's about $8,000 in labor a month. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you have that. And like, it sounds sort of expensive, but like, it's cheaper than us having to, like, there's things that we won't have to do now, like hire a handyman to fix like your inspection list and stuff like that, where like that can be anywhere from 65 to 100 an hour plus materials. Like now it's like, it cost me $40 an hour plus materials, like so it saves costs on certain things. But yeah, I get the financial strain. That's why I was saying like right now for us, it's like it's pretty much operating expense. Then once we get past that, we'll have deal flow, and then once we get past that, I'm gonna have to hire people.
Yeah, but that's kind of where I'm at. Like we have one guy that's working for us, but I want to eventually build my own crew, especially for kind of doing the rehabs on our apartments. because I mean the stuff I buy is pretty crappy typically, so we go in and fix it all up.
Yeah.
So like I'm fine with using contractors for my flips, but as far as my apartments and stuff, I'd rather have like a little team.
Well, and if you had 2 or 3 people that were working for you and you were from like 15 to 20 an hour doing basic remodels on apartments, you could save so much money because like you couldn't afford to pay a contractor $20, $30, $40,000 per unit to flip an apartment. Like it does not make sense.
Yeah. And then you also can train your guys if they're working for you. Like this is how each unit needs to look. Like this is, you know, they don't have to be real fancy. They can look like apartments, you know what I mean? They don't have to be flip quality. Mm-hmm. So if you just set like your parameter on what it needs to look like when it's finished, then just let them go do their thing. But also now one thing I struggle with is tracking, like with the handyman and stuff. Like I feel like it's kind of difficult for me to figure out how to track like how much work is getting done per hour or what to expect as I hire more people. Like, you know, so I need to get better at that. And I think if I implement Monday.com, it'll probably help me figure some of that out.
Well, the thing with the handyman thing, what's awful about that is like they come in and they'll give you a quote. And then they're like, it's supposed to take this amount of time, but I charge this much per hour. It could go up to this. And then like, if it goes over, like you're not there to manage their stuff. Like, I mean, you can't really like, even through Monday, like the way I have my Monday set up, you could move them to the section to say that you have a handyman working. But at the end of the day, unless you're there watching what they're doing or managing what they're doing, like since they're out of house, there's no way for you to actually be hands-on with it. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the things like we were one of our last flips, we had a handyman come in. It was just, I think there was like 6 little things for him to do. And he was like, oh yeah, it should take, it was like 8 hours or something. Or he's like maybe 10. And I think that he ended up having like 13 or 14. So it went from being like, it ended up being like, we're thinking it's going to be 800 and something in labor. It ended up being like 1,200 in labor.
Plus and then what were you paying hourly?
Man, I can't remember what his hourly was. Because he was like, since it was an outside source, it was like, what I want to say said he was like 65 an hour, so I think he ended up going quite a bit over in hours. But like, if we're not there, like I said, like he could run to hiccups and stuff. He could be taking smoke breaks for all I know. Like I don't know how he's charging and stuff. Mm. So that is the advantage about having it like in house. Like our guys right now, they're set up on a geo system. So like if they don't clock in at the job site or they clock in from somewhere else, they will leave the job site and they don't clock out. Like it shows on there. Mm. So like that's handy. Like I can track actual hours. Now if they're just standing out back like smoking or something, I can't see that. But
so what software do you use for that and how much do you pay for it? So
that is actually done through Workyard, and I found that out from Caleb. And we ended up just now paying for it, but it's basically like it's $50 to use it, and then it's like a fee per person per user that you have. The only thing I didn't like about it was like me and Caleb are just admins on it. Like we're not doing hourly rates. Like we're not using the geo feature or anything. Like we're more or less just using it as admins. And it's mainly Caleb. So we had to pay a monthly fee for us to have user access, which I thought was kind of ridiculous because we're already paying the $50 a month. Mm-hmm. But like if you had 50 employees, like it would be a drop in the bucket where it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. Now, do you keep going through like different Calebs? Or are you talking about one Caleb?
I have 2 Calebs. So okay. Yeah, that's the confusing thing. It's actually funny because whenever Caleb Marty met Caleb Edge, he was like, all right, there's going to be one Caleb here. We're going to have to call you something different. He gave him a nickname, but I don't remember what it was. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it is a confusing thing because like I mean, a regular like one I work with directly and one like is more or less like a mentorship type role. So
yeah. So how did you what got you into the capitalist cartel?
What was it? So I had to have been like one of the first people because it was within like the first week or so that I joined. I feel like Cable had just made a post about it or something, and I was more or less like, it sounds kind of silly, but I was more or less just like wanting to get in the room with them. Which I mean, even now sometimes like I'll be in the room with them and like I mean we have personal conversations and everything, but like sometimes I still feel uncomfortable because like I have like this. I don't want to.
It's the image. It's like the mental image of where you think they're at compared to where you fall. I think that's what it is for me.
Yeah. So,
but then when I talk to him, it's just like a normal conversation.
Yeah. And so I actually figured out like I pretty much self-diagnosed myself with this, but this is like literally like about a week ago. I've kind of realized this. Like a lot of people have like a superiority complex where they. Sorry. The Reanime's calling me right now to do a call for a thing. But anyways. Where's that? Oh, so a lot of people have like a superiority complex where they will. compare themselves to other people and like think that they're better than other people.
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like everybody probably has one to a certain extent. Like they don't it's not intentional, like it's just like a thought process that we have. But what I found, and I actually feel like this came from the military, was I must say an inferiority complex.
Yep.
And it's almost like the opposite. And like what it is it's like you put people up on these pedestals and then you're like, it's like because you like give them this like ultimate title, like you're the most successful person in the world, and like I am less than you. Mm-hmm. And like at the end of the day, like they're just a human being. But I mean, like I've done it with pretty much. I would say it's from the military because I like there's like you get taught like rank structure and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And like so like you meet like a general or a colonel or something like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, you have the most respect in the world. But like at the end of the day, like they were just people that were in long enough that met the requirements, and that's how they got where they are. They might not even be good leaders. Like they might not be anybody. And then like with general managers at like even the casino and stuff like that, like what I'll do is like I'll put them on this like crazy level, even though they're just humans, and like I will freeze up in my head to where it like creates this blank space where I can't even think of what to say. Mm-hmm. And so like that's where like
nervous.
Well, that's where like where my social awkwardness comes from. It's usually because I've overthought something to the point of where I literally can't think about what to do. Mm-hmm. And so like it's almost like it just creates this like it's like fight or flight or like freeze, and then I end up in the freeze mode. But like Caleb is like a perfect example of that. Like, and sometimes like going to that platinum meeting, like all those people are like up here, like you hear some of their stories and stuff.
Like
and
the guy that mentioned, like, you know, I'm probably one of the smallest fish here, but I'm worth about $7 million. And everyone's like, holy crap, that's pretty good.
Or the guy that
I mean, he wasn't, you know, he obviously wasn't like the biggest fish there, but like, you know, he's probably, you know, he's doing really well for himself. So
I would say that, I mean, everybody probably, and that's probably doing like the inferior thing, but like everybody to a certain extent probably feels like they're the smallest person in the room. Mm-hmm. Like, but I mean, like when you hear someone like Josh get up and go, like you're like, okay, yeah, like this dude is crazy. Yeah. Like it's like, how do you even compare to that? But man, I like my thing is like, so going back to the capitalist cartel thing, like I just wanted to be in the room with those people. And so like I knew they would be uncomfortable. I know that I would be awkward. Like I knew that like there would be so much to learn. But like that's why like I was like, you guys are doing the things that I want to do. So when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, I don't care what it takes. I'll figure this out. The same thing happened with the Platinum Group too. Mm-hmm. I messaged Caleb and like I think I was probably the first person I think to join the actual Platinum Group. And then he because this is within like minutes. And he made a joke. He's like, all right, it's your turn, old dog. He's like, it's like your turn to shine. So then I'd message him about it, and I was asking how much it was going to be, and then he messaged me back, and I was like, oh, I was thinking this would be like $5,000 a month or something. Like, and then it wasn't. So I was like, all right. Well, and I was like, even if it was $5,000, I was like, I would have made it work. Like, I would have figured it out.
I thought about that the other day. In my head, it was like $1,500, but like, even if you would have doubled the price on what, or, you know, not doubled, but got close to doubling the price, like I probably still would have paid it because it's like you're investing in yourself. You know that's exactly like the perfect mentor for you for what you're wanting to do. So like, you know, it's just, I mean, it would suck having to pay it, but outside of that, like you're going to learn enough that it's going to be worth it.
But the way I look at it too is it's like, what can you gain from it? So like my one phone call with Caleb, which it hasn't paid off yet, but there was something that we talked about that I'm working on that is going to be also part of my 90-day thing, implementing that will literally, it'll pay me $10,000 or more every single time I use it. Every single time. So like one of those will pay for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Of like, and it was like one 1 hour phone call. It's like, and it's just like because.
So what is it? What's like gonna save you all this money? Can you say or not?
I don't want to say. It's related to flipping houses and partnerships, but I don't want to go into detail about it yet because there's so much there's so many moving pieces with it. Mm-hmm. But basically, without giving too much away, more or less what I'm gonna do is like start up like a partnership system for flips that allows people to have different entry levels and different equity positions based upon what they're wanting out of it. It's about the best way I could put that into words. And like it's more or less like people want to flip houses and people don't know how to do it, or like maybe they're missing one of the elements. And then so like as I build out the system of everything for like that we're doing, it's more or less going to let someone else run through our systems after it's already been like battle proven. So like they can come in like that checklist thing that I was talking about walking a property and figuring out the costs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have access to that, access to my private money people. I'm going to put like personal financial statements on there so they can make themselves appear the most bankable to banks. Like all pretty much literally A to Z, everything that they need to flip a house.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more or less going to be something like that.
Okay. Kind of like a course mentorship thing, or
It's
something
not,
different?
it's direct partnership. So it's
Okay.
like, it's more or less like, if like it's going to have something, it'll kind of have a course, but that's more or less going to show like the walkthrough side of it.
Yeah.
And then like it'll be them going out and buying a property, doing all their stuff on there. And then if they have questions, because it's going to run through the Monday app as well.
Mm-hmm.
If they have questions, it actually just moves into like a certain section of the Monday app and it pings me for me to something to look at.
Yeah.
So like I can be relatively hands off, but they'll have complete access to me to ask questions at any point in it.
Yeah. So I'm not structuring it necessarily to do. It's kind of different from what you're doing, but I recently partnered with a guy to where he put up the money. We went and got the loan together, and then like I used my bank connections and stuff like that, and then he's gonna do the demo work, or he already did most of it anyways. And then I'll use my contractors to flip it, but he put all the money up, like the down payments, and then the mortgage or the interest only payments and the insurance and all that will split. And so but we're splitting the profits 50-50. So I told other people that if they want to do something similar, I'd consider doing that. So I don't know. There's been a lot of people that reached out to me about doing it. So, but I think a lot of people's biggest problem is they're not finding the deal, because I want them to bring me the deal on it if we're going to be involved with it.
Yeah, mine's the same way. So that's something else. And like I said, deal flow, I know it's going to be my problem. Like I have deal flow now. Like it's not hard for me to go out and find a house or two. But like when I need to find 10 houses, that's what I mean by like deal flow. Like it's a lot harder to find 10 houses than it is to find 1 or 2 houses.
Yeah.
So like that's something else that's going to be part of it is like how to find deals and like what to look for, like that kind of stuff. So like that'll basically be like they pretty much can just plug into that and go find deals.
Exactly.
Like, so that'll be kind of how that works. There was something that you hit on that I wanted to go into, but I don't remember what it was. Something about like the structure on that.
I guess right now how I'm wanting people to do it is if I can help them get the connections, but they put it on their credit rather than me having to show more and more debt.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably how I'd like to kind of move it. And then I'd probably take out the demo. Like they don't have to do the demo on it, but they just put it on their credit and they put the down payment, and then I'll help them go through the whole process and teach them how I flip. And then they'd have access to me as well.
See, that's kind of how I'd want to do it. I would also not want to be like I would probably want like an equitable position on my stake, but I don't think that I want to like I would prefer not to sign debt for people. Like not that I can't, but I mean like if I'm also focusing on growth, like it's just like it depends upon what element that I need to bring to the table to get them like to the end result. Like if I had to bring some money to it, like it's gonna have a different equity position than like if I have to sign the debt, it's gonna have a different equity position. Like it'll pretty much depend. What I want to do to create is like different tiers of it. So like depending upon what they need or want to like bring to the table, like I can tailor the service to them based upon that, and then they can pick which equity spot they would want out of it, and then they get there. Whatever the equity spot is like how our profit split would be at the end.
That's really smart. See, I feel like I made it kind of cookie cutter. Like this is how it is every time, to where you can kind of cater to a lot more people by doing that. So we might, look into something more like that.
Cool. Yeah. No, I think that's gonna be interesting. But my plan is to roll it out in March. But like, once I started like figuring out what I want to do with this whole 90-day thing, like I'll probably try to start building it through this. But because like I also want to like take it to attorney and have them put together like an ironclad like contract and all that. So and make sure that everything is like legal the way that it's supposed to be. So I'll probably wait until a 90-day thing, and then I'll probably roll it out. But I've actually, like, without going too much into detail, I've already had multiple people say that they want to do it. So, and then I also have, like, I have people all the time that just want to partner on flips, and I'm just like it's great, but like if I have the opportunity to go out and buy my own right now, and it's like not me being selfish, but it's me trying to grow my business, like that's what I'm choosing first.
That makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like for instance, like if I run out of the ability to buy enough deals right now, like let's say that I can buy 4 deals, but I can't buy 5 deals. As soon as I get to, I'm not going to stop looking when I get to 5 deals. I'm still going to go out and look. And then, like, if I find something that makes sense for that 5th deal, that's
Just
going into a partnership. No,
Yeah.
that'll go in a partnership.
Yeah.
Like, because, like, maybe I'm maxed out, like, and then, like, they'll be carrying, like, the financial load on that, but I'll still be handling the flip side. So,
It's cool because there's always ways to make money. Even if you don't have any money in real estate, like, people always think that's the biggest holdup is the money. But there's always ways to structure it where you can keep going.
Yeah, that's actually the crazy mindset is like books are so misleading. Like they're even like bigger podcasts and all that. You're like, oh, you need to come up with this amount of money to buy a house. Like, no, like you do need the relationship or the ability to raise the money. I will say that. However, it is more important to find a good deal and then to find the money than it is to find the money and then find a good deal, because there are so many people who are sitting on their hands that have tons of money that cannot find real estate deals because they don't know what to look for. Yeah. They're not operating real estate deals. They just want to passively invest in deals. And so, like, if you can go and find deals, that skill set is so, like, above what people, like, don't even realize. Like, and, like, that value that it brings to the table is so high that, like, if you could just figure that out, finding money is so easy, and people don't even they can't like grasp that. And they're like, I was the same way though. Like,
so what tips do you have for raising money?
Well, a lot of it's relationship based. So, like, I had someone reach out to me and ask me for private money one day, and because I had loaned private money to somebody, and they used that relationship to kind of get in the door with me. And then I was like, it was in the process of like me moving out of, like, this is just a couple months ago, me moving out of like doing some of the flip work myself. And I'm like, no, I want to scale this thing now. So I'm like, I don't want to invest my own money in other deals. And then they're like, so I just kind of messaged them back because I was busy at the time. They're like, well, I need an answer today. And I'm like, all right, this is already not going to go good, but I'll play it out and be nice, like respectful. So, I was like, to be honest, like, I am really focused on, like, I want to build my business right now, so I would rather reinvest all my money in it. And they're like, okay, well, don't you want to know what the terms are? And then I was like, I wasn't interested. So I was like, I'd already told them that. And then, so a little bit later, they text me again, and they're like, I'll give you 10%, and here's the return. And, like, and it was like 9 months or something. It might not have been 9 months, but they're like, we'll give you 10% interest. And I'm like, I pay more than 10% interest. Like, why would I loan my money to you instead of focusing on my own deals for 10% whenever I'm actually operating deals? Like you just, like, you didn't offer, like, I don't know you. I don't think that you've done any deals outside of some wholesale stuff because I've seen your name pop up. Like, there's no relationship capital here at all. And then you're going to come in and offer me, like, the lowest amount of money anybody's offering any kind of private money investors. Like, it's like like, this is a waste of my time. And it's not me being disrespectful. Like, it's just like, you don't know what a private money lender is looking for. Yeah. So, like, and that goes back to the original partnership where it was like, I didn't know what they wanted out of it. And, like, that would probably be my advice to, like, if you were raising money and you know someone has money, find out what they want. And then find out how to bring that to the table for them. And then if you can package that out and then you can show them that it's a safe investment, like, people will do it all day long. Like, it's really not, it's not as big of a deal as what people make it out to be. Because, like, my private money guy, I think my first one, he gave me like 20 grand. And then I went back, we had one, like, we closed on one, what was it? I don't know, I feel like it was the beginning of December or maybe it was November or something. And he was literally just like, he was like, oh, hey, he's like, I got this much in the bank. He's like, so if you want to do some more, just let me know. Like, and he basically doubled the amount of what he had lent to us total prior. So it was like, he went from, like, originally it was 20 grand to, like, I mean, I don't want to say it out loud, but if I wanted over 6 figures and, like, stabilized asset and I could prove that, like, I could pay him the way, like, all day long, probably no questions asked. Awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, like, and then the other guy, he, like, the other main one that I used, like, he just kind of came to me because he was a buddy and he just knew what I was doing and was like, yeah, he's like, I just want to invest money with you. He's like, he's like, you can use his operating income if you want. So he's like, here you go. And it wasn't even tied to an asset at first, which it is now. But, like, he did, like, he was like, here you go, just make me this amount of money on it. Because it was like, once you get to a point too where you can prove that you can do things, like that undeniable stack of evidence. Yeah. Once you have that, like, it's easy. But more or less, it's asking.
I need to do a better job asking. That's one thing that, like, Caleb's talked to me about that. Is like, I need to start raising capital. If I do that, it'll just be a game changer for us, I think. So,
Well, you already, like, you probably didn't mean to say it that way, but like it already sounded like that was the weakest point of like your current business thing right now, because you were talking about a little bit ago. You're like, you said something about raising like a big down payment, and I'm like if that's literally the only thing you need to do to be successful, like you just need to have those conversations. Like, then plenty of people. I know for a fact that people that have the money sitting that would be willing to invest, because I know those same people and they're in the same network we are. So, like, I know that that's possible for you. It's just more or less like you getting out of your own.
Out there. Yeah.
And that's the believing in yourself thing. And like, at the end of the day, like, you don't have to have all the pieces. If you figure out what they want, though, that's probably like that's the
key. I don't know if. I'm sure I've heard that before, but that really resonated with me. Like, just find out what they want. Because if they want it already, then you don't have to sell anything. You're just, okay, perfect. We sound like a match. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, that was actually sort of the benefit of me doing private money with somebody else, was like of me lending it to them, because I'm like, okay, what would I want from this? And then when I started thinking about, like, if I had money and I was wanting to lend it to somebody, what would I want in return? And then I offered that to somebody else, and they're like, yeah, all day. And it is way cheaper to do deals with someone else's money than it is with your own. So, because I mean, if you have 5 people that are willing to loan you $20,000, or you have $20,000 to do a deal, like, would you rather do 5 deals or rather do 1 deal?
Yeah.
The risk is the same. So.
Okay, so how can people connect with you?
So, I mean, I've been pretty big about building, like, my social media, like, lately. So Facebook would probably be the easiest way. As long as they prove they're a real person through Messenger, because that's probably been one of the biggest challenges about building social media is, like, I couldn't even tell you how many friend requests a day. It's crazy, but like when you start adding people, the amount of people that just spam you. So as long as they like don't hop in my inbox and try to like pitch me on something right away, or ask me for my Cash App, then that's how you get a hold of me. That's the easiest way.
Yeah, I'd say, man. I mean, I feel like for me it was a game changer. Like, after I started showing people what I'm doing through social media, like, so many people started sending me deals. Like, I offer referral fees too, but like, I feel like these type of people that are sending me they just want to help me out anyways. Yeah. So it was like, I feel like that helped us grow a lot, because like I kind of feel like I became more an authority in at least the Monette area on real estate. So.
That was like one of Caleb's big things on like the phone call we had, and one of the things he talks about too in the Platinum Group is like becoming an authority position in either what you're working on or like your area. So like that way people are coming to you and asking questions. And I mean, I get that kind of stuff all the time. Like I'll try to help wherever I can, but like sometimes like we were talking about earlier, it's like tire kickers. Like it's like they show up and they want to ask you about information, they don't want to take any action on it, and so like. I try to be as respectful as possible, but I also try to weed those out, because I'm like, if you're serious about it and you want to grow, like, I will help you all day long. But like, if you were just constantly coming to me and asking me the same question over and over and over again, and you're doing nothing with it, and like you just like want to waste my time, like to make yourself feel better, like I just try not to invest my time in those people anymore.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like a lot of people ask me like, hey, will you mentor me and stuff? And so I think my biggest requirement that I would look for is like, will they take action on like the advice that I give them? And then if they do, then I'll keep investing some time with you. But if you do kind of what you were saying, then probably not be interested. So.
Yeah, the mentorship role thing is like, there's so much into it. Like it would almost probably give me like the opposite. Like it would still be like an inferior type of thing, but I would almost feel like I wouldn't be good enough type of thing, like to mentor somebody. Yeah. Even though like I know that I could bring value. Like one of the problems that I actually have is like there's been lots of times where I could monetize stuff where I don't, and I'm just like, because I'm like I would rather just give it away.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. Is I feel like logically I'm at the spot now where I need to be charging people, but I haven't charged anyone yet. So I think I might try to start some type of program or something, but I just haven't really worked on it yet. So like one of those millions of things that I need to do that I haven't done yet kind of thing.
Maybe you need to be like me then, just make a list out of the things that you need to do, and then literally just one per day. You don't have to like you never did 75 hard or anything, right? No. So like one of the, like I said on that, like it's really just about like power lists. Like it's like I only have to do these things, and if I do these things, then I was successful today. So like if you made a list and you made that non-negotiable, and you're like that's one thing that I was really, really big about in the beginning of last year until like the employment stuff happened, and like I kind of got burnt out for a little bit. But like every morning I would get up and I'd write a gratitude list, and then whenever I did my gratitude list, I would write down the things I need to accomplish for the day. And like sometimes that list would be 5 things, sometimes it'd be 3 things. I try to always do at least 3, and not every single day I would get all of them. But like if there was 5 things that moved my life forward, and I did 3 of those.
Every day. Then,
every single day, I just did 3 things that are moving my life forward. Like, but if I didn't write those down and I wasn't intentional on those, how many things did I do to move my life forward?
Yeah.
You're just drifting. And like that's, so at the end of the day, like that's not what I'm trying to do. So like that, even today, like I think the number one thing was I wrote, I wanted to crush the podcast today. Because I mean, I was uncomfortable about it. Like I knew I would be. So like that was my very first thing. And whenever I go home, because I already wrote down my gratitude list and everything, it's the first thing I'm checking off whenever I walk in my office.
Yeah. And I don't think anyone would ever think that you were anxious or nervous about this or uncomfortable. I think you killed it, man.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It definitely, like, I don't, and it, like, so that's why, like, I was talking about that. Like, I kind of skimmed through the questions, like, I think just a couple days ago, but I was like, I don't want to read these today. Like, I watched the podcast to kind of get, like, some examples and stuff, and I wanted to get my own answers, but I was like, I want to be authentic. Like, I just want to, like, if there's like an awkward spot or I would need to like think about an answer, like I want to think about the answer and then I want to give it because I want to be genuine. So
yeah,
that was my approach.
There's one more question I wanted to ask you.
No.
So what legacy do you want to leave?
Man, so there on your last podcast, you guys talked about kids and stuff like that, and so this actually would be the only way I know how to answer this because like. I may or may not have kids. We're not sure yet. As of right now, we're not trying. But if it happens, like that's not a huge deal. But you guys were talking about whether or not you wanted to leave stuff to your children, and like you're like, at what age would I leave it to them? And like I just don't want to give it to them, type of thing. And so I got to thinking about that, and I'm like, how would I answer that question if that was presented to me and I had kids? And so like it kind of goes a little bit back to my childhood stuff of where like I wasn't really given anything. So, like, I would not give it to my kids. I would probably donate it to something or have it somehow set up to be where it could grow itself. But what I would want to do is I would want to teach my kids the skills to build the things that I had.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't ever want to just give something away to somebody. But if they're willing to learn, like, and I also don't care if my kids go to college. Like, if they want to go to college, 100% okay for it. Like, if they go and do something that they're passionate about, like, I'm okay with that. Like at the end of the day, like I would just want them to be happy in life and chase the things that they're passionate about. Like that's it. Like, but outside of that, like I don't think that I would want to leave anything. Like of course, like if I died, I would probably leave my stuff to my wife. But outside of that, like I don't want to just leave it to someone else to like that was just given like for them to either ruin or something. I would rather have a foundation built where they can kind of do their own thing, and I would help them in any possible way with that. But like. So I think that at the legacy, I just want to be a good human being. Like, and I'm not always a good human being. Like I know that. Like I make mistakes all the time. But like at the end of the day, like I just want to treat people right. I want people to treat me right, and like just want to be a good person. And then and I just want to chase my passions. Like that's probably my legacy.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's really good. All right. Do you have a final message for our audience?
Oh, I knew you were gonna ask this question. Do I gotta look at the camera for this? Figure out what you want in life. Break it down into small, actionable steps. Take action on those, and then you can have anything you want in life.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for watching the Kurima podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.